Hi. Okay, so this one is for part two. So we're going to go over how to interpret data displayed. Yeah, how to interpret data displayed. So we're going to go through like the different graphs and how to interpret it. So basically, are you going to be able to read the different graphs here that they're going to show you in this lesson? So the first one is talking about a line plot uses stacked marks along a number line. And this to show the frequency with which data values occur. So in that previous video, we talked about a frequency. So a frequency represents how much something occurs, or yeah, how many times something occurs. So now we're going to fill in this chart. So we're going to look at our line plot, also known as a dot plot. So down here on the bottom, these numbers represent the number of students in a class. So if I looked at this, there's 17 students in 1, 2, 3, 4. So each one of these X's represents a classroom. So here you would have 4. Okay, for a number of students for 18, how many classes is that? 3. Because there are 3 X's above it. So remember, each X represents a class. So now we're going to look here on the bottom. So they kind of like flipped it. It says the number of classes, 5. So which one of these, or how many students are in 5 classes? So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 19 students in 5 classes. Then 2 over 21, so 2 classes over 21. So there are 21 students in 2 classes. So that's how you would interpret a dot plot. Just remember that the number here on the bottom, it says number of students. So they usually have the title down there on the bottom, what it represents. Okay, the next kind of graph that they want you to interpret are bar graphs. And you've been learning and seeing bar graphs for a while now. So here it says a bar graph uses bars to show frequency or percent of categorical data. So frequency is a really important word here for this unit. So how many times does something occur? And so bar graphs are, they're organized by categories. So down here on the bottom, the categories are classic, humor, sci-fi, and history. Those are the different categories. And so the question, it says, how many mystery books were sold? So the way you would answer this is first you would look at what is it asking. How many mystery books were sold? So here we want to locate mystery. And then we see that it ends at 40. So there were a total of 40 books sold that talked about mysteries. And then next one, it says, which genre was most popular? So this one, they're counting it by the percentages. So remember, percentages are out of 100. So which genre was the most popular? So we could figure this out by which is the tallest bar. So this is the peak. And so same thing here. This one is sci-fi. So sci-fi is a, wait, what happened? Okay, is the category in which 40% of the total books were sold. Okay. Another graph that they want you to know are 7-leaf plots. And so this is a 5th grade TEK. So it says a 7-leaf plot organizes data by numerical, by place value. Okay. And then in order to read it, you have a lovely key down here on the bottom. Okay, so everything so here has a 9 and then the line and 2, so that represents 92. And so we're going to figure out in the 80s, so you have 82, then this has to represent 87. Then you have 11, and then 3's here. So this represents 133. And this one down here, so you have 14 and then 4. So the leaf represents the ones place. So you have 14, 4, so that would be 104. So how many bowlers scored 113? And in order to figure that out, so we know that this right here represents 113. So we have 1 and 2. Let's see if we are right. Yes, we're right. Okay, so there are 2 bowlers that scored 113. Then the next question says, how many bowlers scored less than 100? So we have to figure out where that 100 mark is. So 100 mark is right here. And remember, each one of these leaves represents a person. So we have 1, 2, 3. So there were 3 bowlers that scored less than 100. Okay, and the final graph that they want us to go over. I'll put myself right here. Okay, so these are line graphs, and it says a line graph uses data points connected by lines to show the relationship between 2 values. And then line graphs are often used to show change over time. So remember what I told you, line graphs are really important in this unit. They keep coming up on different quiz questions. So line graphs show the change over time. And so now we want to interpret this data, or this graph. It says, what was the population in 2007? So the way that you're going to read this is down here on the x-axis, you're going to locate 207. You're going to follow it up, and we land at 24. So there were about 24 million there in Texas. And so something really important, because when I took one of the assignments, I didn't take into consideration right here, it talks about millions. So if the question said about 24, you would technically be wrong. It would be about 24 million because it's counting by the millions. And then next one, it says about how much was a population increased from 2006 to 2012. And so it helped you out here. So we want to look at 2006 and 2012. So 2006, it was 23.5, and they have that here. And then in 2012, they showed that here too. And I liked how they showed you like a dotted line along. Okay, so then in order to figure that out, you would subtract because you're comparing 2 numbers. And so here we would have put 26.5 because that is a population for 2012. Okay, well, I hope that this part helped. Remember that this video talked about how to read the graphs, how to interpret it. The final video for this section is talking about how to determine which graph works best for that data that it shares.